views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter. Today on my show, which is Patty's Page, my special guest is Father Frank Pavone. He is pro-life, and we're going to be chatting for at least a half hour on babies being protected by the law through voting. Yes. So we'll be right back and be with you in a moment. Hello, this is Patty Hunter. This is Patty's Page, and I'm talking today with Father Frank Pavone. How do you spell your last name?
P-A-V-O-N-E, Pavone.
Pavone. And today we're going to talk about pro-life, definitely.
Yes.
Priests for life. So I have a question. It's been in the newspapers, on TV, everything like that. Voting for critical pro-life legislation. Tell me about that.
Yes, this is a very important bill called the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. And very simply what it does is it protects babies in the womb from 20 weeks of development forward. Right now, abortion in America is permitted throughout pregnancy. But this particular legislation would say there's got to be a cutoff point.
There has to be.
And the reason that they put the cutoff point at 20 weeks is that from that point, for sure, babies are able to feel pain. Now, likely they can feel pain well before that. But the scientific consensus is pretty strong that at 20 weeks, these babies are feeling pain. And when you think about it, to be torn apart limb from limb, which is what these abortions do, it's got to be excruciatingly painful. So this is already, it's not like this has never been passed before. This has already been enacted in about a dozen states. And not only that, but in the last Congress, this measure came up also, and the House of Representatives passed it by a very strong margin. And this enjoys the support of a majority of the American people, too, even those who say that they are pro-choice. Because a lot of pro-choice people say, well, there's got to be a limit. And it seems that 20 weeks is a good limit.
Do you realize that it's been over 60 million babies have been aborted since Roe versus Wade?
Isn't that astonishing?
That's a whole country.
It's hard to imagine what that means.
I mean, that's like a whole country, you know?
It is.
In Europe somewhere. Well, my Aunt Anne, in Toronto, was an abortionist.
Is that so?
And I was the only one in the family at that time to be against what she was doing.
Wow.
I joined out with Birthright and everything like that. I was in my 20s. In 1975, she passed away, but she was doing abortions right up to that time.
Wow, that is amazing, and God bless you that you got that conviction from the Lord that this truly is wrong. And you know, it's something that one of the things we do at Priests for Life is we help people who used to be abortionists to find healing. Because when you of course when you have an abortion, that harms you. When you do abortions, it harms you as well. And so we have actually a healing program for those that used to work in the abortion industry but have now come out.
I don't know whether she asked to be forgiven by the Lord before she died. We don't know that. She died by herself.
I see, yes.
But it took me about 40 years to forgive her.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Because I just couldn't bear the idea that my own family was doing that.
It's a horrible thought. It really is. Yeah. Because it's a terrible kind of violence against the most helpless human beings.
Abuse, that's the ultimate form of abuse against children.
It really is.
You know, they were voting on it today, that 20...
The pain-capable bill is being voted on today, yes, May 13th, which is the second anniversary of the conviction of another abortionist, Kermit Gosnell, in
Oh, boy.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And remember, his case got a lot of attention because he was killing babies at the stage where this law would protect them.
Yeah.
But he was killing them even outside the womb, which was another extraordinary, incredible kind of thing. But this is happening in many places. When these babies survive an abortion, the abortion is killing them anyway.
Yeah.
So this bill that's being voted on today actually has a provision in it that if the baby is born alive,
Right.
which can happen in these later abortions,
Right.
that baby is to have medical treatment and the life is to be preserved.
I'm trying to understand the mentality of an abortionist. Why they do that.
They're very hurt themselves and they're very conflicted. The abortionists that we have worked with, they actually resent what they do, which seems kind of strange because then you would say, well, then just stop doing it. But they have this sense of, they're in some way they think they're doing something good. But then they realize, this is like the dirty work of society. They legalize abortion, that's one thing. It's easy to sign a piece of paper and enact a law. But now they're left with the dirty work to do. And some of them are punishing themselves. Some of them many of them have had very, very troubled lives. And it's sort of like doing the abortions is working out their own woundedness and their own problems. But they're very, very broken people. And we see that all the time.
They're taking it out on the kids. They're taking all their frustrations out on the kids.
Exactly.
There is so much hate in there. Anger.
It's terrible.
I know of some people who had abortions. I don't know how to reach out to them because it's very, very sensitive, especially when you're close to them.
Well, that's right. And sometimes in those cases, the best people to reach out to them are people who are a step removed emotionally and so forth. But, kindness and compassion and love are always part of the right solution. When we let people know that they have our trust, that we're always there for them, that we want what is best for them, then even if we don't mention the abortion explicitly in conversation, they have it in their mind that when the moment comes that they're ready to talk about it, they know that we're one of the people they can come to. And so it's like laying that foundation. And then sometimes I often find, too, that people that we know who have had abortions, it's not that we need to bring it up to them directly, but sometimes we can make sort of a passing comment, especially if we're involved in pro-life work, where we say, there are wonderful healing programs for those that have had abortion. And just like one quick sentence. And we don't make them feel uncomfortable, and we're not asking them to engage in conversation. Yeah. We're just saying, yes, there's these wonderful healing programs that those who have had abortions are finding peace, finding forgiveness. Because if they hear it, then maybe it'll be in the back of their mind. Again, when they feel ready to come forward, they know they can turn to us for information.
Well, they're not believers.
Mm-hmm.
And this one of them I knew won't let go of her kids, so to speak, emotionally.
That's right. Well, and that's exactly one of the issues that arises, that those who have had abortions end up holding on to those aborted children.
Right.
Why? Because they're not properly grieving. A lot of the healing after abortion is essentially teaching them how to grieve a loss, which society is telling them isn't a loss. I mean, if this is just a choice, if this is just part of freedom, well, then what are you grieving for? But of course, they know better. They know it was their child, and therefore they are grieving. But society makes them feel silly for feeling sad. And this is where we need to help them to properly grieve. Once they properly grieve that child, then there's not that that attachment, that undue attachment, that very often impedes them from getting on with a normal life, and
no
so we see these
closure.
consequences.
There's no closure for them. That's
No
what.
closure. Mm.
I was just wondering, of all the around the world, which is the worst country for the abortion?
Well, sadly, as far as public policy, ours is among the worst. In the United States, abortions are done legally throughout pregnancy. There's no limit on how many abortions a person can have. There's no reason required to have an abortion. So we have one of the worst public policies. Now, as far as the numbers, the sheer numbers of abortions, of course, China and Russia, these are places where the numbers are just astronomical because, of course, the populations are much larger. And in China, there's even the policy, the one-child policy, which even leads to forced abortions, and that's terrible as well. Although when you actually look at the concrete circumstances here at home, most of the abortions that happen can be categorized as forced in the sense that the mother really doesn't want to do it. Now, they use the slogan freedom of choice, but abortions don't happen because of freedom of choice. They happen because someone feels they have no freedom and no choice.
Pressure.
And so it's the coercion. It might be coercion from a friend, sometimes from the father of the baby, sometimes from her parents. Coercion comes from all different places, and sometimes just from circumstances, social or economic, that she just feels like she can't do it.
What happened to compassion here?
That's
Where's
right.
compassion? They're going away from God. They need God.
They sure
Jesus.
do. They sure do. You know, when we believe in God, when we worship God, no matter what particular denomination we might be, when we put God in the center, that's the opposite of pro-choice.
Right.
Pro-choice, this slogan that so many use to justify abortion, it puts us in the center. My choice is what matters, my decision. But when we worship God, we realize it's His choices that matter the most. It's His decisions. And He's the center of gravity of all our desires, all our actions. And that's where we find peace. And that's how we keep doing the right thing.
We have Lutherans for Life, Allen County Right to Life here in Fort Wayne. There's other pro-life like the Roman Catholic one too. I don't know what their name is. Priests for Life? I don't know what they call themselves here in Fort Wayne. But we all get this one group, every Christian, Roman Catholic, Lutheran, whatever. They're all Christian.
Yes.
And it's called Shepherds United.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I also serve, besides my work with Priests for Life, I serve as the president of a group called the National Pro-Life Religious Council. And that's made up of a lot of kinds of groups that you're mentioning here. Lutherans for Life is part of it. The Presbyterians Pro-Life, the Anglicans for Life. There's a Methodist Pro-Life group. It's beautiful to see that unity, because what we're all affirming together is that Jesus Christ is Lord and that He is Lord of human life. And that when God became one of us, what that did is it raised human life up to the very throne of God.
Yes.
And so if God became human, a human life, of course, is more sacred than even it was before. So there's no way that we can believe in Jesus as Lord and then say that we have the authority to put a child to death. It just doesn't fit.
It sounds so barbaric. I thought we were more civilized. I guess not, eh?
Well, you know, and you're right, it sounds barbaric. And you know what I find is that most of the people who support abortion never bother to look at it or to listen to a description of how it's done. And I think that's where we've got to bring this debate. Down from the abstract level, we've got to bring it to the concrete level. And especially if someone is saying that they support abortion, we need to say to them, have you ever seen one? One of the things we do on our website is we put the pictures right up there. Here's what abortion does to a baby. And the pictures are so horrifying to look at. But one of the reasons they're horrifying is that people realize, oh my goodness, I can't support this. I'm going to feel terrible if I support this. But how can we resolve a debate about something if we don't admit what the something is in the first place?
Their faith.
And this is where I think a lot of people fail, because they don't want to even hear a description of how this baby is killed, or how these arms and legs are ripped off the baby, or how the suction tube takes that baby down into the plastic tube, and the baby's heart can still be beating when the baby comes down the tube and into the collection jar. I mean, these are the kind of details that I'm convinced we need to be talking about in order to wake people up. To just like you just said, it's barbaric.
And I understand. Did you go to March for Life?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Did you find a lot of younger generation?
The March for Life is now, it must be like 3/4 younger people. And by younger, we're talking about high school age and college age students coming by the tens of thousands.
They're waking
all over
up
the country to stand up for life.
They're waking up.
It's beautiful. Well, you know, one of the reasons is these young people realize that they could have been aborted. And this notion of being a survivor, this awareness of being a survivor, they say, look, when I was in the womb, I was not protected.
Right.
Now, that's a very, very powerful thing to realize, that your life was not recognized under the law. And that's what motivates a lot of these young people to stand up now for the children in the womb.
Yeah, the what do you call it? The amendments? What do you call it? What do you call it? The First Amendments?
The First Amendment?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what the forefathers have written?
Yes.
Declaration of, you know, they're not following it anymore. They're trying to change it to make it their way.
Well, the founding documents of our country, of course, start with the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence says very clearly that the right to life comes from God,
right,
and that the government cannot take it away. And that's the mistake behind legalizing abortion, is that now the government thinks that the right to life is something that it decides. And in reality, it's beyond the authority of any government to take away the right to life.
What do you think of the, what do you call it, the people who allowed Roe versus Wade? Is that the Supreme Court?
They made a big mistake back in 1973.
They made a whopper.
That 7-2 decision, Roe v. Wade. And you know, one of my good friends is actually the Jane Roe of Roe v. Wade.
Oh.
Norma McCorvey is a woman who lives in Dallas, Texas. And Norma, back in the late 60s, got pregnant for the third time, didn't know what to do, and met these attorneys who were trying to legalize abortion. And they noticed that Norma's case could possibly become a reason for the court to legalize abortion. So they led her along thinking that they were, she was thinking they were going to help her, and really all they were doing was using her in order to change the law. The law eventually did change, as you said. The Supreme Court made that terrible decision. And poor Norma, she didn't even know what was going on. But she ended up having that baby and placing that baby for adoption.
Oh, good.
But Norma, you know, she used to be in the abortion industry. She used to be advocating for abortion, but now she's completely pro-life. And this former Jane Roe of Roe v. Wade now works to see Roe v. Wade reversed.
You know, this world is in a lot of darkness ever since the fallen, Adam and Eve and all that, way back home. So, Jesus is the only light we have.
Yes, he's the light of the world, and that light reveals to us who God is. Jesus, of course, is the revelation of the Father. And in revealing to us who God is, the light of Jesus reveals to us who we are. And that's really, when you think about it, that's what's at issue here in the abortion debate, is, you know, who are we and whose are we?
Yeah.
You know, are we made in the image of God? Do we belong to Him? Or are we just a collection of materials and we belong to ourselves and we can do what we want, even if it means throwing our life away or throwing the life of the baby away? These are the abortion goes to the deepest questions of our humanity.
Yeah.
Who are we and whose are we? And of course that question relates directly to God.
I have noticed commercials and stuff. People are trying to save the animal world more than the babies.
Isn't that right? And some of these commercials they have, I'll tell you, I can hardly watch them. Very sad commercials about the animals, the
Yeah.
mistreatment of the animals, and we should be respectful to the animals. Of course, they're God's creation
We're
too.
caretakers of Earth.
But I'm sorry.
We're the caretakers of Earth. That's why we're right.
That's exactly right. We're the caretakers. But actually, those commercials about the animals made me think just recently of making a similar kind of commercial for these babies in the womb. And so I have our video team now working on an ad that will show the unborn child, and it'll have the same kind of sad music, that they have about the animals. And the commercial will say very clearly, these babies are being abused, mistreated, torn apart every single day. We have to do something to save them. And as you know from your experience with Birthright and so many other pregnancy services, people are saving lives every day. Help is available, and this is one of the bright spots in this whole controversy.
I like what you're saying. It's beautiful. We need more people like you, sir.
Well, thank you.
So, what are your plans for the future of Priests for Life?
Well, one of the things that we do at Priests for Life is that we work with the churches of all denominations to really stand up strongly for life. So one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm finalizing a book called Preaching on Abortion. And we want to send it out to all the pastors. It's based on the scripture readings for the weekend, so it's not just a Catholic thing. It's for all preachers. And if we can help these pastors preach more clearly about abortion, more lives will be saved. And more minds and hearts will be changed. That's one of the things we're doing. Secondly, we're going to be working very hard for the elections next year. We need to put into public office public servants who know the difference between serving the public and killing the public. If someone can't respect the life of a little baby, how are they going to respect yours and mine? So we've got to get people thinking about abortion in terms also of the election and challenging the candidates on this issue. So we'll be working hard on that, registering voters, educating voters, and so forth. And then you mentioned the March for Life earlier. Yeah. One of the things we'll be doing at the March for Life again this coming year, like we've done in the past, is that we organize the big prayer service in the morning. There's a big prayer service at Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. And again, it's all the different denominations coming together to worship, to praise Jesus Christ, to honor him, and therefore to honor the sanctity of life. And it's we have clergy from dozens of denominations, and we have a beautiful prayer service. So that'll be the morning of January 22nd. Any of our viewers who are coming to Washington might want to come to that prayer service, and you can see it online. The information is at nationalprayerservice.com.
Right. Oh my goodness. I'm glad I got in touch with you, because you make me feel good. You make me feel good.
Thank you.
Oh. Well, it's almost time to say goodbye, but next time, can I interview you again?
Please, I'd be very happy to do that again, and we'll talk some more about these important issues.
And the results of the voting today, I hope it's positive for us. For the baby.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Thank you so much.
God bless you, sir.
Blessings to you.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Hello, this is Patty. Thank you for coming on to my show. Father Frank Pavone is the head man of Priests for Life here in the United States. So he was a special guest, and I'm glad he came on board. And I'd like to thank you for having a listen and watching my show. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us